I can't believe it. We're back. Happy fall, everybody, and welcome to Collage Jam for September 26th, 2022. And it's our first jam of autumn. I have 5 scheduled between now and December 5th every other week. Hope you can join us for all of them, a few of them, catch some of them on the replay. Up to you. It's been so long. It's been since early July, and the spring was kind of riddled with holes in our schedule because of Kim's show and health crises and so on. So I'm happy to say that it's looking like we've got a full slate ahead of us, and really looking forward to being able to collage with everyone again. And yeah, so can't wait. I hope you had an excellent summer. We had a pretty quiet summer because Kim was recovering from surgery. She's doing very well. I know a bunch of you guys have expressed your concern and sentiments and well wishes, and it's made a world of difference. Thank you so much. Kim is getting stronger, and just in the last week or 10 days, she's resumed singing, and that has really spiked her mood. She's really improved a lot in terms of how she feels as a result of singing. I see some comments coming in. Hey, Jane, welcome back. Yay. I'm so happy. And Val, hi, welcome aboard. Glad to have you guys back. My troopers, my collage troopers. Awesome. What else do I have to tell you about? So yes, Kim is doing well and getting better. Yeah, she's just saying from off camera that she's gonna come in and say hi in a couple of minutes. So that's awesome. So stay tuned for that. And couple of little useful things. I am now starting to put the links to these streams once I've got them set up on the virtual collage jam page on my website. So that is, if you just go to my website, calhoney.ca, and look under the Teaching Plus tab, you'll see virtual collage jam. If you go to that page, you'll see I've listed the themes for this between now and December, and as well I will make them links. I've only made this one a link so far, but I will get on it for the streams for the rest of the autumn. Yeah, me too, Val. Absolutely. It's been a rough. And then she had a body scan show something else up, so we were on tenterhooks about that. But that's come back negative as well. So yes, it's and we had a tough pandemic in with a lot of family issues even before this. So we're just ready for some peace, frankly. And it looks like I don't want to jinx it, but it is looking good for getting some of that, which is great. So when I switch the camera to the overhead, I will show you, I'm now finally in the final steps of wrapping up the poetry book that I've been doing collage illustrations for. All of that is done. The design work is done. I'm just doing final preparation for the files for the printer. Just waiting on a final few corrections. And so when I switch to the overhead, I'm going to share with you the cover that I did and then the revision that I did, because it's kind of interesting to see two very different collage approaches to the same subject matter. Because my client didn't like the first attempt. He liked it, but he didn't think it was appropriate. So I reworked it, and I'm happy with both. You know, I liked the original, but I also like the one I did after that. So it might be kind of fun for you guys to see that. So hey, Cherie, welcome aboard. Yay. Yes, we do deserve some peace. I agree, and I hope you had an excellent summer, you guys. It's definitely something I enjoyed towards the end. Once things settled down, was during COVID, I got so used to exercising indoors that I finally got back out for some bike rides, and it's so much better. I see in my rearview mirror my co-star, and she won't be joining us for this this episode, other than coming in to say hi. So hi.
Hi, everybody.
Awesome.
I am, in fact, getting better.
Yeah.
Slowly.
Yeah, slower than you hoped, right?
Always.
But yeah, but it is slow but sure.
Yeah.
And you've been singing a little bit. And
singing has brought me back to life.
It really, really has. Like, she's night and day between like 10 days ago when she hadn't done any or very much singing, and then she started doing it fairly frequently, and it just like spiked her happiness, and it's so beautiful to see.
And it started with one or two people who may be here, one of whom may be here, I don't know, recommended Wellspring for people with cancer or post-cancer or so on. They have tons of free programs, and they had a music therapy one that is basically a singing session, sing-along session, and on Zoom. And that's what got me back to singing. So
yeah.
Yay to Wellspring.
Yeah, Wellspring. If you know anyone who is touched by cancer, and so many of us do,
including family or caregivers.
Yeah. They have a whole host of programs. They're all free.
It's astounding. Like they're foundations, so they rely on the gifts of people who've appreciated what they do. So
so they don't rely on the vagaries of public funding, which is you know, I wish that this kind of stuff were publicly funded, period, full stop. But you know, because ideologies change with politicians, it can be a minefield. So they're privately funded. They do their own fundraising. Anyone who's been touched by cancer has sort of lifetime access to it. And so whether you have it yourself or whether you know people, it's awesome. So
and we get no commission for promoting
I mean,
because they don't have income.
God forbid that, but it's really important to know. So
not everybody knows about them, so
so
it's good to mention them. Anyway, I'm very grateful because I feel more like myself, right?
You
appear more like myself too.
You have spring in your step for the first time in months, frankly. So which is awesome. Just
the way it is. So who all is here?
We have
Hi
Jane,
hi Val, hi Cherie,
and
LJ Bodley.
Yeah, we don't.
That's not someone I know.
That's awesome.
You found Wellspring helpful too. Oh, that's wonderful.
First time here. Welcome aboard. Yeah, that's awesome.
So the singing program is just wrapping up this week, but they are offering a I think a 2-session in-person one in Oakville. The one I'm doing is on Zoom, which I think I'm going to sign up for, and then they will offer it again, but I just don't know when. The facilitator didn't know when last time we met, so something to watch for anyway.
So LJ, you're Lori? Okay, I'll try and remember that. Welcome aboard, Lori. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and it looks like Jane knows you.
So that's nice.
Yeah, I always love it when my peeps bring more peeps.
Bring more peeps.
Which is awesome.
Exactly.
So welcome aboard. Hope you enjoy it. What she says when Lori says, "Love your shirt, Kim."
Oh, thank you. Yes,
it's
from the National Art Gallery in Ottawa. And it's just a stunning design, stunning artwork. West Coast, obviously.
Yeah, and
Carol is watching. Hey, Carol.
Hi, Carol. I know you can't comment, but
we're glad to know you're here.
Yep. Yeah. Cherie is speaking up for you.
Yep.
And Cherie says singing releases endorphins and dopamine in the brain. So yes.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's so many, and it's also the breathing. Breath is just. You know, I'm meditating and I'm singing, and breath all over the place.
Hey, and Mia's aboard. Yay.
Hey, Mia.
How are you, Mia? Great to have you back. That's awesome. Stunning shirt, she says. Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a favorite. And I should let you guys get on with your collaging. Did you tell them about how far along your book is?
Yes, I'm gonna show them a couple of things from it once we switch overhead. So
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. This is like his thesis project or something, you know?
Yeah, it's and except longer.
Yeah, well, life
But yeah,
happened.
life has definitely happened in the last little while.
It
So
just I mean, I'm glad about life, but
yes,
sometimes,
here's to life.
yeah,
L'chaim. Yeah,
yeah. And I think it's Rosh Hashanah
it
too,
is. It is.
actually.
Yep.
So,
I think that's why it came to mind. Someone said,
to life, l'chaim, 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 to life. That's all I'll do.
that's a nice little taste, though.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks.
Have fun,
Thanks for dropping
everybody.
by.
Nice to see you in the chat, at least.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So thank you, Kim, for joining us. That was lovely. And I'm just going to, the screen's going to go black for a few seconds while I switch the camera to overhead, and then I will get to work and you guys can do the same. And here's to collaging. So back in a sec. I'm pretty low tech here. I'm just like swinging it to an arm of the tripod that I've got set up over here. So get it somewhat straightened. There we go. And a bit lower. There we go. All right. So a little more light on this side of it. So before I dive into, I've got a few ideas which I'll talk about in a minute for collaging on the Windows theme. But before I do that, I just thought it might be kind of fun for you guys to see the two iterations for the cover illustration for the book that the book of poetry I've been illustrating. So this is the first draft, and the title of the book is Bright Fish, and it's named after a poem with the same name. And the poem is the poet is a woman, and she's writing about trying to capture fleeting thoughts and before they get away from her, and we can all relate, right? And she likens that to a heron searching in the reeds for bright fish, like looking for these little flashes. So my first illustration was this one here, which I thought would be kind of fun. I made this sort of heron-like, woman-like hybrid using a few different eyes, some women's legs, and a sort of painted skirt, and a sort of a pseudo beak. And the reeds in the background are lines from the poem that I arced in digitally and then cut and painted into sort of reedy-like shapes. And then you can see the bottom here is done with layers of tissue paper to look like the reeds are sort of, you're seeing into the water a little bit. So that was take one. And the client, who I'm working for, Lavelle's husband, he was less keen on this hybrid creature that I came up with, and he said he'd prefer something more realistically a heron, and that the fish be bigger, like the fish that the heron's hunting for be bigger. So that was take one. And then this is, and it doesn't have the cover on it, but this is take two. So this is like the opposite tact. It's still the same context, but I've done the fish and the heron sort of much more realistically, right? So it's a little more painstaking. Just get a little more light on it so you can see it there. That's too much light. How about there? So it was kind of fun to do both, actually. So this is the one that will grace the cover, and yeah, so I thought that'd be kind of fun to see. So as I said, that's now getting, I'll be sending final files to the printer in the next several days. So I don't know how long it'll take them to print it, but stay tuned. It's been a long time coming, but it's really great to be at that stage. So I'm just going to check in with comments and yeah, thanks, Jane Shana Tova. Hey, Philippa, welcome aboard. Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, Philippa, that you couldn't chat to Kim. I will definitely pass along your hello. Yeah, it's good that she's definitely looking better. And yeah, she's coming back, which is awesome. So um, Philippa says, I just finished a medical Zoom appointment. That's why I'm late. Never a dull moment. Yes. Well, actually, hopefully this will be much more fun than the medical one, right? So thank goodness for medical online. Saves us so much driving and so on. But yeah. And Amy, welcome aboard. I know you've been posting. So thank you in our Facebook group. So welcome aboard. I think this might be your first actual jam, so that's great. And thank you for the kind comments, Amy. Yeah, I think it's actually come out really nicely. So yeah. And Lori, oh thanks. Yeah, I liked when I came up with that idea to use the different layers of tracing paper or tissue paper for different degrees of opacity, I was like, ooh, I like this idea. So yeah, I was pleased with that one. Yeah, Jane, I like the first one too. I think it's frankly, personally, I like the first one as much or better because the poem is a work of imagination, right? When a person is imagining themselves as a bird, I figure that's fair enough that I then do some sort of interesting hybrid. But that's the way it is. I think it might the realistic heron might be more might be better for on a book cover for getting people's attention. So yeah. Okay, Amy, you watched videos before, but this is the first live one. Awesome. Yeah. Hey, Nellie. Yay. Yes, I'm sorry, Nellie, that this has been a heck of a year with Kim's cancer diagnosis, and we had a lot going on even before that in the spring with her show and so on. So yeah, I'm really glad to be back and looking at a fall term full of jams. So yeah. Oh, thanks, Nellie. Yeah. So as always, for those of you who are new, I set themes because I like to have a starting point, but you'll notice the more you watch, the more you'll see that sometimes I I go off in my own directions, and some of you may be like, I know what I'm doing already. I know what I want to do. That's fine. Just ignore the theme and work on whatever you want to work on. Or if it gets you started, but then you head off in a direction that is different than you originally planned, that's fine. The prompt is merely a little thing to get you started, and that's like if it gets you going and then you head off in a different direction, it's served its purpose. So if you've let me know what if you have ideas about how you're going to go about Windows, or like even partial ideas, drop them in the comments and let me know. I'm going to be sort of going back and forth between the comments. The comments are over there. So I will check in every so often. But just as far as what I was thinking, sometimes I will start without any ideas other than the prompt, but I gave it a little thought this morning. And it might be interesting for you to hear how I arrived at what I arrived at. I thought about windows, and windows are great because they're metaphorical, right? I mean, they can be literal and metaphorical, and there so many things can act as windows, right? I mean, you cut a hole in a piece of paper and it's a window, right? You can have windows that so many different kinds of windows. And when I was young, I was a Rush fan when I was a teenager, and they released an album called Power Windows, which was a look at the power of windows, and they were looking at different kinds of windows. Like this would be the late 80s or early 90s, and they were looking at like television, binoculars, and thinking about power structures like media and how that has power, and magnification, how that has power, like microscopes and telescopes and binoculars and so on. And so the cover had a young boy sitting in a chair pointing a TV remote at the window with a sort of befuddled look on his face, like why it wasn't working. And that made me start thinking, well, oh yeah, well, this was like before the internet. And then I started thinking about the fact that, now we have infinitely more windows that are very powerful, but also that they, and then I started thinking about something that Kim and I have noticed is when we are traveling, or even just when we're out taking pictures, we see something out in the world and we go, wow, what a scene. And then we hold our camera up to it, our phone usually more often, and we look at what we see in the phone and we just go, oh, there's this immediate diminishment of what it is when you see it on the phone or on the camera. Even if the camera is doing like a really good job of capturing what's there, it's just like, oh, that's not the feeling I'm seeing when I see that magnificent scene, especially if it's like a massive, spacious landscape. It even happens with small things. I hold up the camera and think, ugh, that's not the beauty and the wonder that I'm seeing with my eyes. And then so I started thinking about that, and then I thought about how so many of us live in a mediated world with social media, and we look at these tiny little images of wonderful things that are these poor stand-ins for that. So I just started thinking along that line, and so I printed out some pictures of people holding phones up to things. And so I have an idea that I'm going to put some sort of a beautiful scene in front of something with someone holding up a phone to it, and then maybe some little glimpse of it through the window of the social media. I don't know. So that's as far as I've thought, but I thought it might be interesting for you to see how my thought process has got me to my starting point. And then who knows, once I start cutting things, all bets are off. I may take it in another direction. So, so I'm just taking a quick look at the comments. And Mia says, first cover is more intriguing for her as she's the curious one. I hope the second one will work well. I really love the reads with words on. Yeah, I thought that was fun. Thanks. Yeah, I'm glad you like it. Cherie says, my friend Loretta has gifted me a box of magazines, fuel for an analog collage. Awesome. And is there any glue in the equation, Cherie? Just kidding. Don't worry. I've actually taken a few pages out of your book, Cherie, and I have been recently I've been doing, especially for the book, I've been doing collages that are just held together with just little pieces of tape underneath, and then I throw it on the scanner, and the scan, because the scan is going to be in the book, right? And that way, if I need to move something, it's I can. So your flexibility plan is definitely factoring into my thinking as well. So I have this National Geographic book that has some very magnificent natural or just world scenes, kind of like Grand Canyon, like from around the world. So I thought maybe one of these remarkable scenes might be the backdrop that I'll have my phone being held up to. So first thing I'm going to do is cut out, I like to start with something that is I've already given some conceptual thought to it, so I'm going to enjoy just the process of getting warmed up by just cutting some things out. And I think I'll just cut out hands and phones. I've got a few different images that I grabbed off the internet. And I figure, because I am going to be removing the background and I'm going to be removing the pictures on the phones, that's probably enough, that all that's going to be left from this particular image is the hand and the phone. That will be enough change that it's not a major copyright issue. So I might be wrong. Copyright lawyer might have something to say about that, but I think it should be all right. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Let me know, or let us know, if you have any ideas for how you're going to approach Windows. I mean, computers have Windows these days. So many things have Windows. Houses, cars. You know, is the Windows, like, something that's interesting is windows that move, like on cars or trains or planes, where you sort of get this, you just sit there, and because you're moving, you get this constantly changing scenery. That's an interesting thought too, isn't it? And you can, and windows within windows. Something that I love about collage is, well, so many things to love about collage, but is the way that you can layer things up. So you cut a hole in a piece of paper, whether it's an image or just a texture or a color, and then you can slip something underneath it and see through it. But if it has a hole in it as well, you can put something else beneath it. So you can build depth that way that can be kind of fun. Just trying to cut this so I can get some light on it, in a way that gets light on it. The edge is a little bit hard to see. That's why I'm cutting in this strange position. Normally, I just spin whatever I'm cutting on to be the optimal angle for my hand to work for it. But because I've sort of got the light in an optimal place, reasonably optimal for the video, I can't just move the light around, which is something I would normally do. Like, oh, I need more light over here. So trying to move my hand in the work instead of the light. So how was everyone's summer? Did you do some fun stuff? Let us know in the comments. Kim and I had the great good fortune to be invited at the last minute to join some friends who had booked a resort for their 10th anniversary. But then it was originally going to be in 2020, and then they rebooked it for 2021, and that also fell apart because of the pandemic. So they finally did it this time, and they got in touch and they said, we've got some space, not everyone can make it. Do you guys? And we said, oh, definitely. So we had 3 or 4 days of bliss in the Kawarthas, fires every night, potluck, dinners outside, lots of conversations. And it was just heaven, I have to say. We didn't plan anything, Kim and I, which, that's very much for the case with us. We're kind of pathologically spontaneous, which also means we sometimes don't get things done because it's like, oh, left that too late, can't do that. But this year with Kim, she wasn't sure whether she was going to need to stay in the city for treatment or not. So that was just a really fortuitous, and we're really grateful for it, situation to happen. So. Because we have definitely spent too much time indoors the last 2.5 years. I know several friends have finally got back to traveling, which is awesome. Must be really great to be able to get back out on the road when you've been cooped up for much too long. We had planned to do a road trip in 2021, and then we thought, okay, well, maybe we'll do it in 2022, and so now maybe it's next year. I know Kim is champing at the bit to. She is always at her happiest and healthiest when she's on the road. She loves her road trips. Not that I don't either, as well, but for me, they're enjoyable. For her, they're like essential, I would say. So it's really been hard. The pandemic's been hard for her in that way, as well as many other ways. I've made mention of this before, but it bears repeating that generally speaking, when you're starting to make art, and collage is no exception, it's nice to have something that doesn't put you in at the deep end right away. Like maybe you're painting a background, or maybe you're getting out your supplies and laying them out the way you want them. If you sort of start cold and launch right into the difficult part of something, like trying to figure out a plan or whatever, it can sort of it doesn't give you a chance to warm up. So that's, I did some initial thinking for sure, as I described, but now before I get into, like, I have to cut these hands out anyway, and that's really, it's sort of a meditative, it's fairly straightforward. It's just a skill-based thing. There's not a lot of thinking to it, just but while it isn't a thinking thing in one respect, it is a time for sort of my brain to start ticking over very sort of quietly and organically, rather than sort of throwing it in at the deep end. I'm looking at the images, I'm thinking about them, but I'm also talking to you guys, and it just lets me wade in gradually rather than in at the deep end right from the get-go. I think that's really important. It's kind. It's sort of kind to our mind, our soul, our creative spirit to wade in gently rather than plunge in crazily. Let's check on how things are with you guys. Amy says, they make a glue stick, Elmer's Craft Bond repositionable. Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't used them, but I've seen students have them. Yeah, and there is a Scotch tape for sure that is repositionable. So yeah, that's great for thinking, right? Try it, stick it there, moving around. And Philippa says, I'm still working on some images for the fashionable figure course. Awesome. That was a course I did not last week, the week before, I guess, where we did Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning classes. And yeah, there's been some great stuff done in that class, including by you, Philippa. So yeah, awesome. And Philippa asks you, Amy, does the tape hold enough when the image is turned upside down on the scanner? Or maybe you're asking me. I tend to use either Scotch tape or the green painter's tape. The green painter's tape is not super sticky. So yes, it holds enough. Sometimes there are some loose bits and I have to sort of be careful that they don't sort of get scrunched when I lay it down on the scanner, but just a little bit of carefulness and no problems there, Philippa. Cherie says, warmed up with the digital collage, playing on Eyes Are the Windows to the Soul. Awesome. And it's already posted. Of course it is, Cherie. Today she's going to go a little more architectural. Awesome. Jane says she used to collect old windows, refinish, paint them, often mirrored them. Cool. I just cut photos of them up and made a hodgepodge collage that just posted as I'm wondering what else I could do. Absolutely. So yeah, um, that's a great place to start, right? Pictures of windows is awesome because you can cut out the bits from the windows and then lay it over another one, cut with the windows cut out. And Philippa Amy says that yes, the paper holds the glue stick and tape holds well enough to flip something over. So awesome. That's another thing I love about things like the Collage Jam is sharing resources, sharing ideas, sharing techniques. You know, I share some of mine with you guys, obviously, so share as much as I can, but that you guys share with each other is great. One of the best things about working together, and this is a way we can work together while still being physically separate, which was obviously essential during the pandemic, but now it's just takes away any of the commute time and the packing up and packing up, unpacking, repacking, unpacking, which is why a bunch of my students I know are happy that to still have online options for courses, even though hopefully, I think we still have more COVID than perhaps our leaders want to admit. But whether that's right or wrong, definitely there are a lot more people out and about and a lot more public events happening. So, and I know there are a lot of students who are anxious to get back to in-person classes, which I totally understand. How are you guys feeling about that? Let us know in the comments. Are you taking any in-person courses now again? Are you comfortable with that yet? I know I taught my first in-person course this summer at Halliburton for the first time since the beginning of the pandemic, so a little over 2 years at that point. And I was really a bit trepidatious about whether I was going to have the stamina to do full days. But I needn't have worried. It was really beautiful. And I had thought, okay, I think I've learned how to teach online. I really enjoy teaching online. I think this is going to be my new normal. And teaching in Halliburton made me think, okay, yeah, but there really is some beauty and benefit to the in-person experience as well. And I think everyone in my class was really anxious and ready for it. And yeah, we just had a very special, really beautiful week. So, you know, am I changing my mind a little bit? Yeah, I think I'm going to probably have some mix of both in the future once COVID is safely and surely in the rearview mirror. Although they say there may be other things that will take its place. So one thing at a time. But definitely, if you get the opportunity and things feel safe enough for you, yeah, definitely understand why you'd want to be in person again finally. This is where it's helpful to have a Kim, where she can do a little color commentary. Not used to speaking all the time. So don't mind me if I go silent upon occasion, just while I'm thinking or focusing on a cut. Or just having a little water break. I am by nature an introvert, but teaching has been good for developing my ability to be somewhat extroverted some of the time. But it's a bit of a stretch. So let us know in the comments. Are you an extrovert, introvert, ambivert? People who can do both, can go both ways. I once said to someone that I thought, well, maybe I'm an ambivert. I said, because I can be extroverted, but then I need a rest. And they said, yeah, so you're an introvert. You don't sort of feed off the energy of it. And I said, well, I do feed off the energy of it. I really do, but I do need, no doubt, I need a rest after a social, even if it's fed me, and I know it does feed me. So it's so interesting how different we are. I know I've met introverts, or sorry, extroverts, and they are just like, how do you have the energy, and how do you keep that energy? You know, but thank goodness we're not all the same. Val says she's working on the idea of window to the past, or reflecting on the past. That's awesome, like windows of time. And that's anything that gives you a glimpse of things from the past is a window into the past, isn't it? So yeah, that's great. Nellie says, in both France and the UK, people are totally back to normal. You see the odd mask wearing adult, but life is back to normal. Yeah. And I think for the most part it is here too, although it depends where we are. We were in Chinatown a few days ago, and definitely more people wearing masks because Asian people are just more inclined to. You know, people in Asia generally, if they have a cold or they have the flu, they wear a mask so that they don't infect other people. So they're sort of there's kids staying with it longer, and I'm still wearing mine when I go grocery shopping or go to indoor public spaces for sure. Val says she's definitely an introvert. Yeah, me too, Val. Absolutely. Amy says she's the odd one wearing the mask. Yeah, me too. It feels very strange to see so many people unmasked now. And when you think about how up until mask wearing became sort of de rigueur, or sort of the thing, like it didn't happen right away during the pandemic. And I remember feeling like, oh, I should do this, but then I was feeling sort of self-conscious about doing it, which I have no idea why. And then I sort of got over it. And now it feels strange to see other people without a mask on. So. Right. Got one more hand. You can't even see the edge of this hand. It's so blasted out. I'm going to take my pencil and just put a little, before I start cutting, see if I can actually, it's so faint, it's really hard to see. I'm just going to make it up for the most part. Hopefully it's something like that. Of course, I made my pencil line so faint that I can't even see that very well. So that's not really serving the purpose I'm asking of it. There we go. So having that, getting it oriented to the light a little better. So I'm hoping you guys can hear me okay. I am sometimes turning away from the mic a bit because I've got my laptop off to the side. When we have our setup in the dining room, which is where we sometimes have broadcast or done our streams, I guess that's broadcasting. It's in front of me, so just let me know if you're having trouble hearing me. I'll try and direct it more back towards the laptop, at least upon occasion. Great. I've got a bunch of phone hands to choose from. I'm also going to take out the main image on each phone. Replace with something else. when I used to teach a course at Halburn School of the Arts in the winter to young pups called digital image design. Well, that was the certificate, and I taught design aspects of it. But the reason I'm mentioning that is I used to put this quote up on the wall, and I don't remember the exact wording, but it was from Steve Jobs, and it was along the lines of, I'll paraphrase, that creativity is just connecting things. And I think that's really important for people to realize that ideas, like we think we have to sort of reinvent the wheel, or that ideas have to be like pure as driven snow, come out of nowhere, like and definitely ideas do hit you like they came out of nowhere. But the fact is they're built on your experience. So what you've seen, what you've learned, what you're curious about. And so people who think, oh, well, you know, I don't want to like see other people's ideas or see what other people have written, shown, etc. You're just starving yourself of raw material, because this idea that I talked to you about how a camera diminishes things is something that I've observed and Kim and I have talked about. And then that sort of process of arriving at where I'm sort of going to explore with this collage is all like a bit from here, a bit from there, a bit from there. And that's actually like collage as well, isn't it? But really, it's all just coming from your thoughts and from your experience. And so the more stuff you have in your hopper from life experience, and the more used to mining it you are, to looking at it and like, oh, I'll bring that idea out, or this occurs to me, then the more creative you will be. So seek out experiences, seek out things to see, things to think about, experiences of any kind to enrich your sort of palette of options, right? I know, and the reason I mention that is because the young people in the program often think that, oh, you know, they shouldn't look at other people's work. They have to come up with it all themselves. It has to be original. It has to be new. And like, well, that's just starving yourself of of artistic and creative nourishment. Especially when you're young, because when you're young, you don't have life experience. So then what else are you going to draw on? You have life experience. You just don't have as much of it as everyone else. But that is your well of where your ideas are going to come from. And so you sort of ignore that at your peril. Kind of fun just seeing that on the cutting mat with frame. Oh, look at this frame of of paint splotches. So just checking in on your comments. Philippa says, I totally love online courses. So much less hassle, particularly not having to drive on winter roads, for sure, and lug around art supplies. Presently looking at participating in an in-person show. Wow, that's kind of fun. I think the whole thing is there's still wonderful stuff about in-person, but being a little bit more selective than we used to be, where and having the option to be more selective, right? Instead of having to go to every single last thing, now we have the, like, Kim and I were talking about, we didn't end up going to a friend's opening that was all the way downtown, and we'd already driven downtown 3 or 4 times last week for in-person stuff. And so I said to her, well, maybe she's got like something online. And I think she did. I think we've just failed to get to it even online. But that idea, like, oh, well, this I'll go to in person, but this I could do just attending online or looking online. So yeah. Cherie says, with full respect to the clinical diagnosis, I think many of us will experience some level of post-traumatic stress disorder. Still wince when someone around me sneezes or coughs. Yeah, I'm a mask wearer. Yeah, same here. And it's not going to change in indoor situations anytime soon for me. So Philippa says, I am definitely an introvert. I wear a mask too. I'm frustrated. So many people seem to think COVID has gone away. Yeah, me too, because I think that more people are dying of it, sadly, than at the beginning of the pandemic. It's just, yeah, it's a mix of ideology and people being willing to risk more because they're sick of it. And it's like, that's not good enough reason for me anyway. But anyway. If we talk about the pandemic too much, we'll make ourselves miserable, I know. So Cherie says, I like the quote, creativity is intelligence having fun. Yeah, I agree. Intelligence having fun. I mean, I don't know about the intelligence part, but personally, but I definitely have fun with creativity. Mia says, miss in-person classes as I make more art that way. Oh, yeah. It's too easy for me not to show up. They're available, not that, sorry, the thing scrolled, so I was, let's try that again, Mia. It is too easy for me not to show up or sign up for online classes. Must be the artsy people's energy that I love. It's indisputable, I think, the fact that when you're in a room with other people, like-minded people, making stuff together, there is a palpable energy, and I absolutely understand that and thrive on it for sure. And I felt it this summer again, and it was like, oh yeah, I've forgotten how good this can be. So, and that class, I wore a mask. I mean, I had a coffee with me, so I'd like just pull it aside and grab a sip or two and then put it right back on. And some people arrived without masks, and they asked if are we supposed to wear masks? And I said, it's up to you. The reason I'm doing it is because my wife is compromised because she's going through cancer treatment. And bless them, everyone wore a mask and said, oh, I can do that. I'll wear a mask. And they'd go outside for a break. And so, it was beautiful. And I did a COVID test right afterwards and was negative, and so it was all fine. Philippa says, I won't be going to the opening. I told them I'll not be available to volunteer. Yeah, I never liked doing that anyway, so now you have an excuse. Perfect. Jane says, I'll take classes either way, but I've come to love online, not having to pack and then realize, oh, forgot something. Yeah, absolutely. Besides, with gas prices what they are, we're saving. Absolutely. And it's better for the environment. Like, if pre-COVID, I was driving to different classes and workshops 3 or 4 times, and I was also doing some front desk work at Nielsen Park. And so I was driving 4 or 5 times a week to things that were 20, 30, 40 minutes away. And yeah, my carbon footprint was nasty. I calculated it in the middle of that, and it was bad. And now it isn't, because the car is sitting on my driveway most of the time. So that's something I really feel good about, for sure. And I have a friend who's an architect, and he said that his firm is now, they've sort of sized down their offices, They've told their staff that they can work from home, I think, either all the time or except for very occasional meetings. But they also have the offices for people um, whose home situation doesn't suit working from home, so that those kind of people can come in and use the office as much as they want. And if they're having meetings with clients, of course they can use the office. But I think that just changed fundamentally as a result of COVID, which is great because, you know, it is great meeting in person and there is a wonderful dynamic, but it's not necessary for every little last thing. Like if you just have to discuss a detail with a client or with a colleague or whatever, oftentimes you can just do it and like, you know what, let's meet for 10 minutes on Zoom and save all the commute time and hassle and get it done and just stay productive on working on what you're supposed to be working on rather than the commute, right? Some of these phones, the images go very close to the edges of the face of the phone, so when I cut the image out, I only have a tiny little sliver of frame left. I'm sure I can make it work. Of course, it wasn't the intention, but just even this pile of hands with empty frames overlapping like that is pretty fun, isn't it? This is what often happens to me is I have a plan, but then I start doing something else and it looks interesting. So what I might do is just take a quick photograph of this with my phone, holding my hand in front of it, just because it's interesting. So um, it might be something that I come back to. It's very meta, this taking pictures, hands of phones taking pictures of hands holding phones, taking pictures of hands holding phones. I'm just turning this particular hand off because I seem to have left a fair bit of a dark background on the hand. Poor cutting job. Well, not quite what I was aiming for. Let's just put it that way. Do a little retro fixing there. All right. so now I'm going to test the, that's what the idea I have is actually of interest to me. Concept, like it might be, I often have an idea and I think, oh, that's going to be great. And then when I get to the point where it's like, okay, now I'll try it. And I look at it, it's underwhelming. So, and then it's like, okay, well, that's plan B. So, so this kind of actually gets a little bit at some of that experience that I was talking about. How when you hold up your phone, it's not it's not at all what you were sort of seeing. So we've got this like majestic, I mean, cropped off some of it there, but picture of the Grand Canyon, and then when you hold up your phone, you get this one little snippet of it, right? Now, obviously, it's not that bad. Sometimes your phone will drink in a fair bit, but that's kind of sometimes the feeling I get when I look in the phone. It's like, oh, that's just not what I was, not capturing the magnitude of what I'm seeing. So. All right, so what I'm going to do is cut out a bunch of possible images to play with, and then mix and match with some of my hands. The other thought I had was to put a face in it, because people often will put themselves in, like take selfies, obviously. Me at this scene, or my friend at this scene, and sometimes it feels to me a little bit like, of course, that's a lovely thing to do, and I do that too. But there's something about the sort of navel gazing of it that now I love to see people. I love to see my friends enjoying themselves in beautiful places. So it's by no means a judgmental thing in that regard, but it is sometimes funny that, like, oh, well, the best thing that I could do with this beautiful natural scene is put my mug in front of it, so, or so I might go looking for some faces as well, and pop them in and see how that strikes me. We might use that Grand Canyon shot for sure. So I remember when Kim and I bought this magazine. It's National Geographic World's Most Beautiful Places, and we were really quite stunned by some of the images, but we looked at them and we thought they've really oversaturated the colors in an attempt to make them super exciting and like, but they're overdone, like, so every color is like too strong. So it actually kind of, in some respects, it kind of, and it's like, oh, you know, you went a bit too far with the color. So, but it does make them compelling images for sure. But it makes them sort of almost more like some of them are like focused paintings when in fact the original not quite that way. And here we've got an image of a window. So yeah, it's kind of fun holding up a phone, a phone's window to the window through the window of windows. That's actually kind of fun. So that's definitely got to be on the list of possible images to work with. Always good to double check the other side. Oh, well, that's going to be tough because Machu Picchu is on the other side. So. So many beautiful places in the world. Oversaturated photos are not. Wow. And I've got no shortage of possible images for this idea, I have to say. How are you guys doing? What are you guys cooking up? Now that you've been working on it for a while, or ideas starting to generate? Are you getting some ideas cooking as you move things around? I love that about collage, moving things around, lining them up, playing, getting new insights. Now I've got my phones and I've got some scenes. And now I'm going to go looking for some. I just have the feeling it's going to happen again. I'm going to get to the end of the collage jam because I see we've got like about 15 minutes left. I won't have glued a darn thing, but I'll have my raw materials. Yeah, so I'm going to look for some faces that are about the right size to pop into some of these phones. Do a little stack of those as well. And yep, the way things are going, you'll probably see these on the Facebook group rather than here. But She's about the right size for going in one of those phones. It's got the sort of curated look. I mean, fashion's good for that, right? It's all sort of very appearance driven, so good for these, for this idea of mine. Kind of fun having a black and white image in amongst color images. Wow. What a fun and surprising idea for a dress. It's got one black sleeve, and the other sleeve is like just like this hairy fringe, which is awesome. So unexpected. I love that. I feel like these guys, I guess because they're black and white, is particular. There's something there. Maybe with one of those oversaturated images behind them, I think there might be something to that. So. I'll just have to see when I get there. I don't know. I might have like a series here that I have to cut more hands with phones out. Some of these images just scream to be, they just look like they are Instagram shots, don't they? I don't think I'm going to have to go through very many magazines to have plenty of faces to play with. I'll check in with your comments in just a minute. I'm just going to get through this, flip through this magazine and see whether there are any other images. I've gone sort of through the main editorial images at the back, so this is more the departments part of the magazine, so probably fewer images that'll suit. Nothing wrong with him, but nothing special to captivate me. I sort of go by my intuition. Someone else might go, oh, just the right person, so just the right look. But that's another thing I love about collage, because yes, you're using other people's images. You're looking for, and you're recontextualizing or using, but I will choose different images than you would choose. We both go through the same magazine and we choose very different images because we're different people. We look for different things. We're drawn to different kinds of things. So that's kind of fun, and that's as it should be. Jeez, I think too big. Yeah, so I want to have some space around the head as well, because I want to show a little bit of the scene in the window as well. At least I think I do. Probably once I get doing it, I'll be like, oh, now I need bigger faces. I don't want it showing through. But For now, that is the thought, right? Subject to change without notice, no guarantees. It's quite big for the phone, but as well, but there's some space behind her, so that could work. There's something fun about the anonymity of the sunglasses, so not having the eyes. That may or may not actually prove to be the case, but good to have as one of the mix. Yeah, maybe she's another one back to going there. All right, let's see what you guys have been saying. And again, sorry, it's been a little while since I checked in. All right. Amy says, it's amazing how the cell phone helps the creative process. Absolutely. Like I love, personally, I love using it to snap pictures, anything that sort of looks interesting in the moment to me. I'll take just trying to get that light a little less glary. It's the problem with shiny magazine pages. And it also allows you to see something that's bigger, smaller. So you sort of you see it differently and in a beneficial way. So taking a little snap, I take snaps along the way as I go, as I'm working often for that reason. So Lori says, has anyone tried printing on tissue paper to make collage images layered, bleed into each other, etc.? I'm just trying to think. My wife has done a fair bit of what she calls tradigital kind of work, where she does physical processes and digital processes. But inkjet printers, I'm not sure how they would work with tissue paper. I'll have to ask her if she was here. We could ask her, but if it's really absorbent paper, the ink might bleed significantly, and I'd be worried about it getting chewed up in the printer, but I don't know. So Val, okay, so here's a question. Here's an answer from Val. So she often prints on tissue paper. Just make sure you secure it to a sheet of copy paper. I glue one edge to the paper, right? Probably the edge that goes into the printer first, right, Val? The leading edge. So that's awesome. That's great to know. Like I would have thought not, but there you go. And Amy is. This often happens when people start seeing me working. That gives them ideas, which is awesome. Amy says, "How about shots with feet at the edge of the water? That'd be great." I like that because faces absolutely, but feet and hands are sort of tell interesting stories as well. So Philippa says, a couple of years ago we were on a barge going down the Thames through London, and almost everyone had their phones up taking pictures instead of actually looking at the buildings. Absolutely. Yeah, I've seen that experience. I've been that person, and I've also been the person who's like, I'm not getting out my phone. I'm just gonna drink it in and enjoy the actual experience. So I think it depends on the day which one I'm like. But I've definitely also taken pictures of people taking pictures, because there's something very telling about that in our society nowadays. Amy says, magazine collage is my favorite. So therapeutic. Absolutely. Lori says, that's what I thought. Tricky. Yeah. But as you heard, Val seems to make it work. So that's good to know. And Amy says there's no bleed. There is a no bleed tissue. At first I thought you said there's no bleed issue. I thought, oh, that's great. But I was misreading. There is a no bleed tissue. Yeah. So it will probably just be careful. And the straighter the path through your printer, the better. But tissue paper is flexible, and I think having the one end taped down versus both ends allows it to move a little bit if it's like going around a drum. Whereas if it were taped down on both ends it might scrunch. So yeah. That's also, you know, Google is amazing. You can just type in questions like inkjet printer, tissue paper. How do I print onto tissue paper with an inkjet printer? And you'll find lots of advice, you know. So and if you read and or watch videos on several of them, you sort of get a sense of like, oh, this person had success with this. Oh, they also did that same kind of thing. They also mentioned that thing. This person does some weird thing, so maybe, but they're the only one who mentions that. But you know, there's so much available out there, and especially with creative stuff, but with lots of stuff too. But I'm just now in the habit of like, whatever I don't know, I will ask Google, and I will usually find out something interesting and beneficial. So. All right, so I have about 5 minutes left. And so rather than not have anything for you guys to see along the lines of what I've been thinking, I'm just going to cut out one of my figures quickly that I'm going to put in, and just so that you guys can see and I get a sense of whether this idea of mine is, probably won't be the final iteration, because, but it would be kind of nice to just get a sense, wouldn't it, of whether this is going anywhere or not. And when I say going anywhere or not, I just mean a first look, right? Because I'm a big fan of, it doesn't have to work out the first time to be a good idea. Oftentimes it takes more than one kick at something until it actually works, and I'm willing to stick with it if I think it has merit. So I may do something that looks like, you know what, that's not really quite what I was looking for, but it's enough that I'm not going to abort. Let's put it that way. Because I think it's easy to bail on an idea too early, especially if we're underwhelmed by our first attempt at it. And you know what? First attempts usually don't work. Don't work as well anyway as they might if you just stick with it. Now, that said, of course, I've done things where I've like kept at it, and it still hasn't worked, and and I've sort of gone away from it and then come back to it. And sometimes it comes good, and sometimes it's just like, you know what? Okay, I know I've spent long enough on this idea that I feel like I've exhausted what I thought was good potential in it, and it's just not going to work. But usually it's just a case of I needed to take more kicks at it, and then I started getting into the sweet spot. That thing we were talking about taking pictures during our process, like as we go, almost inevitably when I start any kind of process, whether it's taking pictures, making collages, the first one is kind of like, I put too much into it, I've thought about it too much, and then the second one I do faster, and the third one comes a little more easily, and it's usually not the first one, let's put it that way. Sometimes it's the second, third, fourth, fifth, as I explore an idea, that then it starts finally hitting the sweet spot. So so I'm just going to pick one of these. Let's see. Got my girl here. Over. And let's just see what she looks like in a cold environment. Not quite seeing enough of that image. Maybe a smaller or lower. Let's try that. Let's go with our prior Grand Canyon. Yeah. So I just took this I took her out of a sort of a beach scene where she was draped across some rocks. So I'm just thinking, there's some rocks in the foreground of this. Maybe that would actually look a little bit like that was possible. So, so in this case, what I might do, well, I would do, is I would trim her off so that she's only in the picture, only within the phone picture. But there's something compelling about that, or interesting. Finding the thumb of this particular phone, I like it, but it feels like it's in the way for her. So I might try one of the other images like this one. And actually, that's kind of fun because she kind of continues the line from the hand. Come down a bit. And I'd cut off that part of her torso, but yeah, there's something interesting about that. I'm also going to try one with a bigger face so that it's like more about like, look at me, and rather than look at this amazing scene. So, but I think it's got legs. I think it's worth exploring further. And actually, I just cut her off at the waist sort of arbitrarily because I wasn't thinking about it. But there's something interesting about sort of that. I absolutely didn't intend to use that part, but now I'm looking at it thinking, well, maybe I might, you know. So, it'd be kind of interesting if she sort of emerged from the rocks, for instance. So I cut, yeah. So there's plenty more thoughts, but I'm gonna need more time for these, obviously. So, so Mia says she has to say goodbye now. Loved being with you all this afternoon. Thank you, Cal, for another great collage jam. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Mia. Thank you. Take care. Hopefully we'll see you in 2 weeks. And the rest of you guys, as you can see, I've only just got started as usual. But I will play with this a little bit more and post what I do in the next few days on the Collage Jam website. I should just bring my camera back to finish off, back to here. There we go. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing what you guys have cooked up in terms of windows. I heard lots of great ideas, so I look forward to seeing them. So it's really awesome to be back. I'm hoping that maybe next time Kim will be able to join us, because that definitely amps up the dialogue factor when we can have our chats rather than Cal doing his monologue. But it's so good to be back with you guys. So thank you. Thanks, Jane. Yeah, great to have you back. Likewise, Philippa and Amy, welcome aboard. Glad to have you along live. And Lori, I hope you enjoyed it as well. Our new recruits. Yeah, Val, it's great to have you back. Looking forward to seeing what you cook up. I know it's going to be interesting. Cherie says she had a great time. Looking forward to my post. Yeah, me too. As soon as I get it figured out. So, and likewise, looking forward to yours, Cherie. So, see you all on Facebook, and yeah, Lori, likewise. So, so in 2 weeks' time, let me just pull up my calendar quickly, and I'll tell you what date that is. Why are you not showing me my calendar? There we go. So next one is October 10th, Monday, October 10th, and the themes are on the Virtual Collage Jam page on my website, calhoney.ca, under the Teaching Plus tab. Look for Virtual Collage Jam, and you'll find all the themes for the until December listed there. So you can, I know some of you guys like to look ahead, so feel free to do that, or just come in and see what it is in the moment. Either way is good. Any way is good. So thanks, guys, and look forward to seeing you again in a fortnight, in a couple of weeks. So take care and keep on collaging, and we'll see you on Facebook. Take care.